Let's start this episode with an analogy. So let's say you're watching an action flick and there are two characters. We'll call them characters A and B. So these two characters, very good friends, and they were told to rob a bank to give them money for a purpose I can't think of. So basically they just needed money and they have to send it over to someone, right? So yeah, they went to rob a bank and they managed to obtain the money needed. However, it was on their way out of the bank that they were ambushed by the police, guns ablaze, and character B gets shot and dies. So character A happened to be the person who had most of the money they need, whereas character B had some of it. So if A went on with the plan and sent in the money they have at that time, then they could still buy some time to pay the remaining cost off. However, their friend just died. They just saw their friend got shot and died. So it's like, what do I do? Conflicted, but in the end, A decides they'll run away because B wouldn't want that. B wouldn't want A to risk their life just to get their body. Like, because in that moment, A thought like maybe there's a chance to save my friend if I just, grab the body, but they didn't want to risk getting shot themselves, so they decided I'll just deliver the money. B would want that. So A gets in the car, drives away from the police, manages to lose them after like an hour or two of driving. And now A is on the highway all alone. And due to the events from earlier, A was unable to process that their friend died. Like they saw their friend die, but it didn't really click until they were alone. So now during the drive to this location that they have to send the money in, they just realized, oh my god, my friend just died. I just saw my friend get shot and I didn't do anything about it. So welcome back to Fuzz Talks. I decided I would start with an analogy or like a little story to compare it to something I've been meaning to talk about. So how do I start this? Like, I've already started it, but okay. Prior to my first year of bachelor's degree, I didn't think I could face a lower point in life like I had in first year. So back during my diploma days, I would say a good chunk of it was pretty miserable. Like it was the start of the pandemic, classes were made online, we all had to scatter away from campus, and the relationship I had just built with newly found friends, they were stripped away from me in that instant. Like it wasn't completely stripped away. Like I'm still like in contact with a lot of them. It's like I didn't have the time to spend most of that time physically with them, which I felt would have meant much more. But things happen. And due to the restrictions that came with the pandemic, like the lockdown or MCO, I had spent most of my time dealing with that burden alone, like that shift into this new lifestyle. Everyone, all of us who lived through that phase had to face it alone. Like even with your family intact, like with you, it's still in this particular situation, only you would understand it. And me personally, back then, I thought in a way it's kind of better that I faced all these problems myself, because it's in my nature of sorts to deal with my problems alone. But as the days progress into the present, I realize actually having company actually kind of helps. Like it gets my mind off the things that stress me out, helps drive me away from unwanted thoughts or, overthinking. But that is until it all comes crashing down. Where during my lowest point in diploma, I was left to my thoughts all alone. Now, with my lowest point to date, I actually had people, friends around me who would help cushion that impact of all that stress. And in that moment, as I lived through all that burden, I did think to myself, like, whoa, I'm actually holding this out pretty well, huh? But it was only during the 1 month break, that semester break, that I realized how tiring everything really was. Much like that, and much like that dramatic analogy from earlier, where A finally had the time to process that their dear friend just died. It was only now, when I'm all alone, that I realized how overwhelmed I was this entire time. But since I was surrounded by amazing people who had helped divert my attention from everything that was slowly tearing me apart, it never properly clicked for me that I needed a break. And if I were to go back in time and tell past me that I would sit through everything that had transpired today, and actually live by the end of it, younger me would call me insane. Because I consider myself to be, I guess, a free-spirited person of sorts. And in other words, I just cherish freedom. I like having freedom to do things that I want to do. And a lot of that burden from first year weighed a lot of the very things that went against my character. So realistically, it wouldn't make sense for me to continue doing something that I didn't really enjoy. Although I wouldn't go as far as to say drop the course or drop studies entirely, I definitely think I would have changed for the worse. Like maybe I might act it out rebelliously, or I would just do this program for the sake of getting a certificate, and that's pretty much it. And though I wouldn't relive the moment, even with $1 billion on the line, like, pay me any money, any amount of money, I would not do it again. Even if you say like, oh, you could change some of the things that happened, I wouldn't go back. But yeah, even with that, I'm still very grateful of everything that had happened, because had it not been for this stressful experience, I feel like it would have taken me a lot longer to learn a new side of myself. And it's hard to properly phrase it. Like, I can't find the right words for it, but if there was one way to describe it, it was definitely enlightening. Because at some point towards the end of first year, I had a pretty bad breakdown, which led to an existential crisis of sorts. Arguably my worst breakdown, I feel. Like, it felt like an out-of-body experience. And looking back at it, it feels kind of ridiculous. Like, I don't know. I mean, there's nothing wrong with being in a dark state of mind. Like, life isn't always going to be rainbows and sunshine, but it kind of feels embarrassing that it had to happen in front of people, because at that point, I was still attending classes, and some people had noticed, and they had noticed that I was going through some things, and though part of me wished that they hadn't seen it, I was also grateful that they did, because I genuinely believe that if it were not for some of these people, I would have lost faith in some things. I can't thank them enough for showing me the good and better things in life. That some things are still worth believing in. It's kind of corny now that I'm saying it out loud, but I do mean it. And despite me saying all of this, it's not like once second year starts, I'm gonna start fresh as a whole new person, although I might be alluding to that. It's not that, really, because a lot of the things I've learned from that experience was more so like my third eye opening, if that makes any sense. It's like a new slot had been added to my brain, and that would be whatever lesson I could adopt from that first year experience. I forgot to clarify, first year is just semesters 1 and 2, if that's confusing or whatever. But yeah, by the time this episode comes out, I'm probably already in class. But to you who's listening, and to myself, I wish for better days ahead of us, which will continue to be better the happier we find ourselves. If you're starting class for the first time in a while, I wish nothing but the best. If you're attending class as usual, I hope you gain the strength to sit through everything, every mundane thing, with the intent of gaining knowledge. If you have a job, you are always one step closer to your purpose. Or if you're just vibing and getting through days with what little you have, keep doing what you love, or keep looking for what you want to do. And don't let peer pressure get to you, because your life is your own and you set the pace. Until then, I'll see you in the next episode, whenever that may be, and bye.